John's 12-year-old daughter, so
definitely wanting
yeah.
to get that message out.
Yeah.
I promise I'll frame her in just a little bit.
Okay.
BLFers, real quickly, Jen, let me check levels. Say and spell your full name if you don't mind. And I guess if you have a full official title with this group, with this website, if they're calling you anything, concerned parent.
Yeah. Member,
I guess. There we go. That's your official title. But say and spell your name. I'm checking your level.
Okay. Jennifer Recoy Moore, Jennifer Recoy Moore.
All right, so tell me a little bit about this website. What is kind of going on here? Because my understanding is we had this issue with the Slender Man stuff, very scary stuff,
right.
Imaginary realities that these kids are really living in and believing. Right. And it kind of, this website puts to bed those rumors for parents and
right.
really kind of cuts through the clutter and gives them an idea of what these kids are logging on to. That's
right.
That's kind of my interpretation of what I've heard from Ed and just kind of from this website in general. But just started off with, Jen, what does this website mean to you?
Well, I think this website was kind of an answer for something that I was looking for because of the fact that my daughter is 33 and my stepdaughter is 12. And very different times that I'm raising a child in. And now I have grandchildren. And we gave her a Kindle for Christmas a couple of years ago, and we allowed her very restricted access to the internet. But one of the things we let her have was Pinterest, because I used Pinterest and thought it was safe and fun, and she was really into, the boy bands and was able to follow them. Well, what happened was I didn't know she was able to message people. In Pinterest, you have followers, which are basically total strangers. And she had friended someone that came across as a young girl like her, and convinced her to create a secret board, which I didn't even know existed, where they can have, no one can see it unless you're invited to it. And as a parent, if you look at the Pinterest boards, you don't realize anything is secret or hidden. And so she ended up getting into a little bit of trouble with this situation. And I realized I have no idea anymore what's out there or what's available to these kids. And I'm in trouble.
It's one of those things where you watch those shows To Catch a Predator and everything. And,
right.
You worry about
right.
kids going onto those online chat rooms. That
right.
used to be like the old
right.
school way of thinking, you remind your kids you're not supposed to be in there and everything. But yeah,
right.
nowadays, Caroline Bach just did this great story about the secret apps. That
yes.
you can get too. You can go into your calculator and type in 9 times 9, and it puts you into this.
Yes, secret vaults they're called, and I found that on this website. I didn't know about that, so.
As a parent, how scary is it to you that all of this, you've seen different generations of children, and now with this current group, it's harder and harder to keep them safe.
I think it's terrifying is a strong word, but I would have to say it's kind of terrifying when you see your children wading into something that you don't even know about, and you're coming along after the fact, and that it's too late. They've already been exposed to something that perhaps you didn't want them to be exposed to at the age of 11 or 12. And that's very scary, and you think you've put all the safeguards into place, and then you find out that you didn't. And that's a terrible feeling.
This website gave you a lot of peace of mind, though, I guess, or just kind of gave you a sense of you weren't the only one dealing with all of this.
Right, yeah. It's very helpful, and I have to say it. I've been visiting it more often, and people are jumping on board and adding. So it's kind of a parent-driven thing that the parents post. So, of course, I posted about Pinterest, and other parents post, and so I go back frequently to check it because there's new posts and people reply. And so it's kind of a forum. There's alerts that are posted. There's a whole section on slang and acronyms, which I'm totally out of touch with.
I am too, but yeah, I would imagine, you have to kind of
right.
ways around your kids. I was just listening, HLN did this story with this clinical psychologist about how kids are, getting more control over parents nowadays because the pendulum has shifted from like, oh, you're going to be really stern with them to wanting relationships. And the psychologist is saying perfectly acceptable for you to take your kid's phone at bedtime and make sure that they don't have it,
Right.
And for their kid to go to school and be like, oh, my parent is evil.
Right.
Perfectly acceptable.
Yeah.
Do you think some of this all kind of comes into play with this? Just really having to monitor them, constantly, and maybe even to the point where you're checking the records and checking
Right.
their browser history almost.
Right. You have to be the bad guy. And that's what we do now. I mean, a couple of, I think, really important things. The biggest thing is to continue the dialogue with your child. Because I realize there's no way we're ever going to be able to protect her from everything that's out there. The web has so many different layers. There's the deep layer. There's the dark layer. I mean, there's so many layers that we're never going to be able to protect her from. She's always going to stay ahead of us. Always. Because she's really smart. And kids are very tech savvy these days.
Tech savvy.
Very tech savvy.
But maybe not so smart.
Very naive.
I mean,
Right.
you say this, and I think it's true because you've got the Slender Man thing, and you're like, okay, well, come on, you're not 5 years old. You know the difference between right and wrong.
Right.
You can tell that there's nobody that looks like this
Right.
in reality. But I guess not.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you live in this tech world that you forget about the real world. That's why I said
Yeah.
imaginary reality, because they think it's legit.
Right. The Slender Man, now, I don't worry so much about stuff like that, I have to say, and maybe I'm naive again about that. But what worries me is these people, these predators who are on there mimicking other children. And our daughter said, well, I know it's a young girl because of the way she writes, the way she talks, the pictures that she posted. And, you have to explain. Anybody can mimic that just by staying on the site for a little while. You can pick up the talk, the dialect, the slang, the acronyms. And anyone can take a picture of any other child and pretend it is their profile.
You make an interesting point there. I'm just even thinking just about the media's presence because, growing up and over even I just mentioned that To Catch a Predator. I think everybody from my, I'm 30, so like my generation X or whatever. I mean, we remember growing up with, you watch episodes of SVU and you see all this. And so, I mean, you're pretty savvy
Right.
about that stuff.
Right.
There aren't those shows out there anymore, with people trying to, that just seems like, oh, well, that's so passé. We already know that happens, but
Right.
these kids don't know that happens.
Right.
And so,
And they're in a very murky world. When you're online, this is what we stress to our daughter over and over and over. You have no idea who you're talking to. Absolutely no idea who this person really is. And in retrospect, we're quite convinced that this person that friended her and got her offline and got her to private email and got her sending pictures was really a predator because of the types of information that was then sent to her when she was secluded on this private site. But she was so upset with us that we tried to convince her that it wasn't a young girl. And luckily something came out in the newspaper shortly after that said this is how they friend them on these sites. Convince them to go to private sites, blah, blah, blah. And then, they send pornography, they send, and I mean, then she believed us. And so we have to take the phone, we look at the phone, we put some pretty intense limits on her phone. And
almost
she's
to make
probably
her feel
not
bad.
very happy with us. And we had to put our own private passwords down there that she can't, take our limits off. That's the thing. They're so smart. They know how to go in and change the settings. So we had to put an extra layer of security on there to protect her. And to be honest with you, we both kind of agreed that she seemed relieved and actually kind of happy that we were paying enough attention, that we still cared enough to take her phone away and look at it. So,
here's the age-old question, and this is the big old question mark, is that, do you think they need it? Do they need this technology? Would she be better off just with a flip phone or with just...
well,
being forced to call?
that's a really good question, and this part should probably be edited out. But her mom didn't talk to us about it before she bought her the most sophisticated phone on the market. And we had already told her that until she was old enough to be able to pay part toward it, that meant she was responsible enough to perhaps have this type of technology. So it was not discussed. So no, I do not think she needs it. And I don't know how you're going to edit that
Yeah.
in.
No,
But no, I do not think she needs the technology, and if it were up to us, she would not have it. And part of that is because I have parented already once. And I think, and this you can edit out too, but I've lost a child to things that if I had known, perhaps I could have intervened. So I'm like helicopter mom almost. Not that bad, but I'm pretty watchful.
Right.
Yeah.
And clearly to be installing this stuff to make sure that she's totally blocked from all of this. And
Yeah, she's probably not very happy with us, but yet I think she might be, because then she doesn't have to she doesn't have to say, well, I don't want to do that. She can say, I can't do that, which is maybe helpful.
stepmom's evil.
Yes, I'm the evil stepmom, and I'm willing to play that role. And I think that's going back to that question about being a friend or a parent. I think it's a pretty fine line, but you have to be a parent over everything else to protect your kids. The technology is way too powerful.
And you mentioned every other day you're checking and you're reading. I mean, what are some of these new posts? I mean, you mentioned Pinterest. Does it every day, it just shocks you with what you're hearing about these?
I'll tell you the one about the vaults, the secret vaults. So they look like games. They can look like calculators. So if your child has two calculators on their phone or their device, it's a good chance one of them is a vault. And when you put in your little code, it opens up, and it's a whole secret system of texting and emailing and a whole camera.